Thank you for the like. I appreciate that. Hello, Frankie Frog. How are you? Thank you for coming through. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. So we are in. Thank you. Just traveling. Oh, traveling. Like going to another country traveling? Or you went out and you're like on transport or something? Just 2 hours to visit the family. Nice. Nice, Frankie Frog. Hi, Sai. Hi, Sai. How are you, Sai? Thank you guys for coming through. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you are all doing good. So I'm in the book of Nehemiah, right? So we're in the book of Nehemiah. So this is still post exile. Doing good. That's good. I'm so glad to hear that. So this is post exile. We've just read the book of Ezra where they have rebuilt the temple, right? So they laid the foundations, they built the temples, and then Ezra started to teach the Israelites the Moses' law again. And what he essentially did was he renewed the covenant again. Hey Zane! Hey Zane, how are you? So yeah, the covenant was renewed again, right? So this is post-exile, and now the Israelites are starting to rebuild their relationship with God. They are starting to rebuild back Jerusalem, right? And this time, hopefully, they start off better than they did in the last couple of books that we read, right? In Chronicles, in Kings, in Samuel's, right? In Judges. We've seen so far how they have rejected God's ways and followed other pagan ways. They have followed other nations, and they've just did evil in the eyes of God, right? So now God is saying, I want to... Hi! Thank you for coming through. Now God is saying that I want to fellowship with you guys again, and I want to give you some grace this time again, right? So as I said, in Ezra we see the temple getting built, and then we see the renewing of Moses' covenant, and then at the end we see at the end we see Ezra get some of the Israelites to repent for intermarrying and making sure to keep in obedience with the law. So right, so at the end of Ezra, the Israelites were doing wrong. Ezra put them right back into place, because Ezra wanted to make sure that they would be faithful to the covenant, right? So the themes in Ezra were devotion, putting faith and trust in God, faithfulness, right? And that comes with Ezra correcting the Israelites, making sure they stay faithful to God. So now we're in Nehemiah, who's now come to build the Jerusalem wall, right? So we'll start with that. Thank you, Zane. Thank you, David. So this is chapter 1. We're reading 1 to 7 in Nehemiah. So this is chapter 1. Nehemiah's prayer. The words of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah. In the mount of Kislev in the 20th year, while in the citadel of Susa, Hanani, one of my brothers, came from Judah with some other men, and I questioned them about the Jewish remnant that had survived the exile and also about Jerusalem. They said to me, those who survived the exile and are back in the province are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been burned with fire. When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Then I said, Lord, the God of heaven, the great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant of love with those who love him and keep his commandments. Let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer your servant is praying before you day and night for your servants, the people of Israel. I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. We have acted very wickedly towards you. We have not obeyed the commands, decrees, and laws you gave your servant Moses. Remember the instruction you gave your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and obey my commands, then even if your exiled people are at the furthest horizon, I will gather them from there and bring them to the place I have chosen as a dwelling for my name. They are your servants and your people, whom you redeemed by your great strength and your mighty hand. Lord, let your ear be attentive to the prayer of this your servant, and to the prayer of your servants who delight in revering your name. Give your servant success today by granting him favor in the presence of this man. I was cupbearer to the king. Chapter 2. In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was brought for him, I took the wine and gave it to the king. I had not been sad in his presence before. So the king asked me, why does your face look so sad when you are not ill? This can be nothing but sadness of heart. I was very much afraid, but I said to the king, may the king live forever. Why should my face not look sad when the city where my ancestors are buried lays in ruins and its gates have been destroyed by fire? The king said to me, what is it you want? Then I prayed to the God of heavens, and I answered the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in his sight, let him send me to the city in Judah where my ancestors are buried, so that I can rebuild it. Then the king, with the queen sitting beside him, asked me, how long will your journey take, and when will you get back? It pleased the king to send me, so I set a time. I also said to him, if it pleases the king, may I have letters to the governors of Transrefutites, so that they will provide me safe conduct until I arrive in Judah, and may I have a letter to Asaph, keeper of the royal park, so he will give me timber to make beams for the gates of the citadel by the temple, and for the city walls, and for the residence I will occupy. And because the gracious hand of my God was on me, the king granted my request. So I went to the governors of Transrefutites and gave them the king's letters. The king had also sent army officials and cavalry with me. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite officials heard about this, they were very much disturbed that some people had come to promote the welfare of the Israelites. I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, I set out during the night with a few others. I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. There were no mounts with me except the one I was riding on. By night I went out through the valley gate towards the jackal well and the dung gate, examining the walls of Jerusalem which had been broken down and its gates which had been destroyed by fire. Then I moved on towards the fountain gate and the king's pool, but there was not enough room for my mount to get through. So I went up the valley by night, examining the wall. Finally, I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate. The officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, because as yet I had nothing to the Jews, or I as yet I had said nothing to the Jews or the priests or nobles or officials or any others who would be doing the work. Then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. So you see that Nehemiah wanted to honor God, right? He wanted to honor God, right? And make his name holy, right? His name's already holy, but you know, he just didn't want the temple or the Jerusalem walls to look in a disgrace to people, right? He wanted to show that sense of respect, you know, that sense of like, this is God, he's holy, right? And he took it upon himself to act, you know, just like Ezra, right? He took it upon himself to go out there and gather up some people and be like, you know, let's go and, you know, rebuild the wall of Jerusalem so it doesn't look like a disgrace, so it doesn't look like dishonor, right? So he took that upon himself to do, you know, he willfully did that, you know. I also told him about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king had said to me. They replied, let us start rebuilding. So they began this good work. But when Sanabat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite's official, and Geshem the Arab heard about it, they mocked and ridiculed us. What is this you are doing? They asked. Are you rebelling against the king? I answered them by saying, the God of heaven will give us success. We, his servants, will start rebuilding. But as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim or historic right to it. Chapter 3. Eliashib the high priest and his fellow priests went to work and rebuilt the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set its doors in place, building as far as the Tower of the 100, which they dedicated, and as far as the Tower of Hananel. The men of Jericho built the adjoining section, and Zachar son of Imri built next to them. The fish gate was rebuilt by the sons of Hasaniah. They laid its beams and put its doors and bolts and bars in place. Meremoth, son of Uriah, the son of Hakos, repaired the next section. Next to him, Meshullam, son of Berechiah, the son of Mesheabel, made repairs. And next to him, Zadok, son of Benaiah, also made repairs. The next section was repaired by the men of Tekoa, but their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervision. The Jeshaniah gate was repaired by Jehoiada, son of Paseah, and Meshullam, son of Besodiah. They laid its beams and put its doors with their bolts and bars in place. Next to them, repairs were made by men from Gibeon and Mizpah, Metaliah of Gibeon and Jadon of Meronoth, places under the authority of the governor of Transrefutais. Uziel, son of Haraniah, one of the goldsmiths, repaired the next section, and Hananiah, one of the perfume makers, made repairs next to that. They restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. Rephaiah, son of Hur, ruler of a half district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section, and joining this, Jedaiah, son of Harumapha, made repairs opposite his house, and Hattush, son of Hashabaniah, made repairs next to him. Malchiah, son of Haram, and Hashub, son of Pahath Moab, repaired other sections and the tower of the others. Shalom, son of Helohesh, ruler of a half district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section with the help of his daughters. The valley gates was repaired by Hanan and the residents of Zanoah. They rebuilt it and put its doors with their bolts and bars in place. They also repaired 1,000 cubits of the wall as far as the dung gate. The dung gate was repaired by Malchiah, son of Rechab, ruler of the district of Beth Hakarim. He rebuilt it and put its doors with their bolts and bars in place. The fountain gates was repaired by Shalom, son of Hohe, ruler of the district of Mizpah. He rebuilt it, roofing it over and putting its doors and bolts and bars in place. He also repaired the walls of the pool of Siloam by the king's garden as far as the steps going down from the city of David. Beyond him, Nehemiah, son of Zabuk, ruler of a half district of Bethzur, made repairs up to a point opposite the tomb of David, as far as the artificial pool and the house of the heroes. Next to him, the repairs were made by the Levites under Rehum, son of Bani. Beside them, Hashabiah, ruler of half the district of Kiliah, carried out repairs for his district. Next to him, the repairs were made by their fellow Levites under Bunai, son of Henadad. Sorry. Ruler of the other half district of Keilah. Next to him, Ezer, son of Jeshua, ruler of Mizpah, repaired another section from a point facing the ascent to the armory as far as the angle of the wall. Next to him, Baruch, son of Zabbai, zealously repaired another section from the angle to the entrance of the house of Eliashib the high priest. Next to him, Meremoth, son of Uriah, the son of Hakos, repaired another section from the entrance of Eliashib's house to the end of it. The repairs next to him were made by the priests from the surrounding region. Beyond them, Benjamin and Hashab made repairs in front of their house, and next to them, Azariah, son of Maaziah, the son of Ananiah, made repairs beside his house. Next to him, Bunai, son of Henadad, repaired other sections from Azariah's house to the angle and the corner, and Pael, son of Uzai, worked opposite the angle and the tower projecting from the upper palace near the court of the guard. Next to him, Pedaiah, son of Parosh, and the temple servants living on the hill of Ophel made repairs up to a point opposite the water gates towards the east and the projecting tower. Next to them, the men of Tekoa repaired another section from the great projecting tower to the wall of Ophel. Above the horse gate, the priests made repairs each in front of his own house. Next to them, Zadok, son of Immer, made repairs opposite his house. Next to him, Shemaiah, son of Shechaniah, the guard at the east gate, made repairs. Next to him, Hananiah, son of Shelemiah, and Hanan, the sixth son of Zalahath, repaired another section. Next to them, Meshullam, son of Berechiah, made repairs opposite his living quarters. Next to them, Malchiah, one of the goldsmiths, made repairs as far as the house of the temple servants and the merchants, opposite the inspecting gate, and as far as the room above the corner. And between the room above the corner and the sheep gates, the goldsmiths and the merchants made repairs. Chapter 4. When Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed. So you see how they're getting angry. So we see this in Ezra. The officials get angry because they wanted to build back, the temple to get people to worship again, right? And the officials had to stop this because, for their own personal gain, for their own political reasons, also just to, be spiteful and just stop. And again, we see here, Nehemiah is trying to repair the wall, and again, they are trying to stop him, right? But you can't stop, God. You can't stop what he is already doing, right? Especially when people are really determined and they really are like wholeheartedly out here riding for God, you know what I mean? He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, "What are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are?" Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at his side, said, "What are they building? Even a fox climbing up on it would break down their walls of stones. Hear us, our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own hands. Give them over as plunder in the land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders. So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their hearts. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod heard that the repairs to Jerusalem walls had gone ahead, and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. So even through the suffering, even through the persecution, they still endured through it. They still kept going on, right? They said we're going to do this because we want to wholeheartedly do this for God, right? And nothing is going to come in between my way of doing this, right? So you can give all the threats to me you want. You can mock me all you want. You can say all these things to me, but I'm still going to carry on doing the will of my Father, right? Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, "The strength of the laborers is given out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the walls." Also, our enemies said, "Before they know it or see us, we will be right there among them and will kill them and put an end to the work." Then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, "Wherever you turn, they will attack us." Therefore I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families with their swords, spears, and bows. Right? They were ready for battle, right? They were armored up. They were ready for battle. Just like we should be armored up every day, and we should be clothed in Christ, right? They were armored up. They were ready to fight, After I looked over these things, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, "Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families and your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes." When our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to our work. From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other, and each of the builders wore his sword at his side as he worked. But the men who sounded the trumpets stayed with me. Then I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, the work is extensive and spread out, and we are widely separated from each other along the wall. Wherever you heard the sound of the trumpet, join us there. Our God will fight for us. So we continued the work with half the men holding spears. From the first light of the dawn till the stars came out. At that time, I also said to the people, let every man and his helper stay inside Jerusalem at night, so they can serve as guards by night and as workers by day. Neither I nor my brothers nor my men nor the guards with me took off our clothes. Each had his weapons, even when he went for water. Chapter 5. Now the men and their wives raised a great outcry against their fellow Jews. Some were saying, we and our sons and daughters are numerous. In order for us to eat and stay alive, we must get grain. Others were saying, we are more mortgaging our fields, our vineyards, and our homes to get grain during the famine. Still others are saying, we have had to borrow money to pay the king's tax on our fields and vineyards. Although we are of the same flesh and blood as our fellow Jews, and though our children are as good as theirs, yet we have to subject our sons and daughters to slavery. Some of our daughters have already been enslaved, but we are powerless because of our fields and our vineyards belong to others. When I heard their outcry and these charges, I was very angry. I pondered them in my mind and then accused the nobles and officials. I told them, you are charging your own people interest. So I called together a large meeting to deal with them and said, as far as possible, we have brought back our fellow Jews who were sold to the Gentiles. Now you are selling your own people only for them to be sold back to us? They kept quiet because they could not find nothing to say. So I continued, what you are doing is not right. Shouldn't you walk in the fear of our God to avoid the reproach of our Gentile enemies? I and my brothers and my men are also leading the people money and lending the people money and grain. But let us stop charging interest. Give back to them immediately their fields, vineyards, olive oil groves, and houses, and also the interest you are charging them, 1% of the money, grain, new wine, and olive oil. Right? So what does God say about looking out for the poor and about, injustice, right? Nehemiah is calling them out. Basically, he's seeing wrong. He's seen that they're being exploited, right? And you should be looking after your own, right? You should be looking after your people, right? And Nehemiah is calling out and basically saying, stop what you're doing. Why would you do that? Why would you charge them, after we were kind of rebuilding ourselves back up, right? So, that's Nehemiah fighting for justice, right? To make things right, He saw something was wrong. He saw something wasn't sitting right. He called it out and he told them, what you're doing is wrong. These people do not have the means, right? And you're still trying to get more and more and more out of them. You can see their hardship, right? And you're still trying to get more and more out of them. Hi, Sai, thank you. You're still trying to get more and more out of them, right? And Nehemiah is basically saying, no, I can't. How can I see this and not say anything? How can I be a part of this and see that you are exploiting them, right? So, God says, look out for the needy, help the needy, right? Be fair, right? Be just, yeah, right? Be fair. So Nehemiah is calling them out, right? We will give it back, they said, and we will not demand anything more from them. We will do as you say. Why are they doing as you say? Because they know it's wrong. They know what they're doing is wrong. And it took for Nehemiah to say you're doing something wrong for them to stop what they were doing, right? They gave it back because they knew that they were in the wrong. Then I summoned the priests and made the nobles and officials take an oath to do what they had promised. I also shook out the folds of my robe and said, in this may God shake out all their houses and possessions. Anyone who does not keep this promise, so much a person be shaken out and emptied. At this, the whole assembly said, Amen, and praised the Lord, and the people did as they promised. Moreover, the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when I was appointed to be the governor in the land of Judah, and to his 32nd year, 12 years, neither I nor my brothers ate the food allotted to the governor, but the early governors, those preceding me, placed a heavy burden on the people and took 40 shekels of silver from them in addition to food and wine. Their assistants also lorded it over the people, but out of reverence for God, I did not act like that. Right? Thank you, Sai. Thank you, Sai. I appreciate that. Right? So Nehemiah set himself apart. Nehemiah made sure he didn't follow their ways, right? Nehemiah made sure that he was always going to be in respect God. He was going to be in awe of God, right? Nehemiah knew God's holiness, right? He knew better not to act like the rest of the people, right? He knew better to set himself apart and act like a man of God, right? So Nehemiah again is just like Ezra, is just showing what it is to be a leader, or what it is to, set a good example, right? Or what it is to really fear the Lord, right? And Nehemiah had so much respect for God that he was not even going to even think about participating in acting in the way that they were, right? Instead, I devoted myself to the work on this wall. All my men were assembled there for the work. We did not acquire any land. Furthermore, 150 Jews and officials ate at my table, as well as those who came to us from the surrounding nations. Each day, 1 ox, 6 choice shepherds, and some poultry were prepared for me, and every 10 days an abundant supply of wine of all kinds. In spite of all this, I never demanded the food allotted to the governor because the demands were heavy on these people. Remember me with favor, my God, for all I have done for these people. Chapter 6. When the word came to Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem the Arab, and the rest of our enemies that I had rebuilt the wall and not a gap was left in it, though up to that time I had not set the doors in the gates. Sanballat and Geshem sent me this message: come, let us meet together in one of our villages on the plain of Ono. But they were scheming to harm me. Right? Do you see how the devil works? They were scheming to harm me. So I sent messengers to them with this reply: I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? 4 times they sent me the same message, and each time I gave them the same answer. Then the 5th time, Sanballat sent his assistant to me with the same message, and in his hands was an unsealed letter, in which was written, "It is reported among the nations, and Geshem says, it is true that you and the Jews are plotting to revolt, and therefore you are building the wall. Moreover, according to the reports, you are about to become their king, and have even appointed prophets to make this proclamation about you in Jerusalem. There is a king in Judah. Now this report will go back to the king, so come, let us meet together." I sent him this reply: "Nothing like what you're saying is happening. You are making it up out of your head. They are all trying to frighten us, thinking their hands will get too weak for the work and it will not be completed. But I prayed, now strengthen my hands." One day I went to the house of Shemaiah, son of Deliah, the son of Metabel, who was shut in at his home. He said, "Let us meet in the house of God, inside the temple, and let us close the temple doors, because men are coming to kill you. By night they are coming to kill you." But I said, "Should a man like me run away, or should someone like me go into the temple and save his life?" Right? He said, "Should I run in fear? Should I run in fear and hide? Should I run in fear and hide, or should I actually go and fight for the temple? Should I go and fight for what I'm building for?" Right? I will not go. I realize that God has not sent him, but that he has prophesied against me, because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. He had been hired to intimidate me, so that I would commit a sin by doing this, and that they would give me a bad name to discredit me. Right? And that's exactly what the accuser does. He accuses you of doing something, right, to get you to sin, so he can say, "You've done something wrong, look at this person," right? But Nehemiah wasn't falling for it. He had such great discernment, right? Why did he have great discernment? Because he was walking with God. He put his trust in God. He put everything in God, right? Prayer, right? He knew who he was, and he stood on it. Remember Tobiah and Sanballat, my God, because of what they have done. Remember also the prophet Nehemiah, and how she and the rest of the prophets have been trying to intimidate me. So the war was completed on the 25th of Elul in 52 days. When all our enemies heard about this, all the surrounding nations were afraid and lost their self-confidence, because they realized that this work had been done with the help of our God. Also in the days, the nobles of Judah were sending many letters to Tobiah, and replies from Tobiah kept coming to them. For many in Judah were under oath to him, since he was son-in-law to Shechaniah, son of Ariah, and his son Jehoahan had married the daughter of Meshullam, son of Berechiah. Moreover, they kept reporting to me his good deeds, and then telling him what I said. And Tobiah sent letters to intimidate me. Chapter 7. After the wall had been rebuilt and I had set the doors in place, the gatekeepers, the musicians, and the Levites were appointed. I put in charge of Jerusalem my brother Hananiah, along with Hananiah, the commander of the citadel, because he was a man of integrity and feared God more than most people do. I said to them, "The gates of Jerusalem are not to be opened until the sun is hot, while the gatekeepers are still on duty. Make them shut the doors and bar them. Also appoint residents of Jerusalem as guards, some at their posts and some near their own houses." Now the city was large and spacious, but there were few people in it, and the houses had not yet been rebuilt. So my God put it in my heart to assemble the nobles, the officials, and the common people for registration by families. I found the genealogical records of those who had been the first to return. This is what I found written there. These are the people of the province who came up from the captivity of the exiles whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had taken captive. They returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to his own town, in company with Zerubbabel, Joshua, Nehemiah, Azariah, Ramiah, Nahum, Manai, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispereth, Bigvai, Nehum, and Benaiah. The list of men in Israel, the descendants of Parosh, 2,172, of Shephatiah, 372, of Ariah, of 652, of Pahath Moab, through the line of Joshua and Joab, 2,818, of Elam, 1,254, of Zatu, 845, of Zakkai, 760, of Bunai, 648, of Bebe, 628, of Azgad, 2,032, of Adinaikam, 667, of Bigvai, 2,067, of Adin, 655, of Attar through Hezekiah, 98, of Hashem, 328, of Bezai, 324, of Heroth, 112, of Gibeon, 95. The men of Bethlehem, Netophah, 188, of Anahoth, 128, of Beth Asmaeth, 42, of Kirith Jearim, Kirith and Beeroth, 743, of Ramah and Geba, 621, of Michmash, 122, of Beth and Ai, 123, of the other Nebo, 52, of the other Elam, 1,254, of Harim, 320, of Jericho, 345, of Lod Hadid and Ono, 721, of Senaiah, 930. The priests, the descendants of Judea through the family of Jeshua, of Immer, Jeshua, 973, of Immer, 1,052, of Pasur, 1,247, of Haram, 1,017. The Levites, the descendants of Jeshua through Kadmiel, through the line of Hodaviah, 74. The musicians, the descendants of Asaph, 148. The gatekeepers, the descendants of Shalom, Attar, Talmon, Akab, Hatiah, and Shobai, 138. The temple servants, the descendants of Zihah, Hasupha, Taboath, Kiros, Sia, Padon, Labana, Hagba, Shalmai, Hanan, Gidel, Gehar, Riah, Rezin, Nikodah, Gazam, Uzzah, Paziah, Bisai, Minam, Nephusam, Bakbuk, Hakpua, Hu, Bazluf, Mehidiah, Harsha, Barkos, Sisera, Timha, Niziah, and Hatifa. The descendants of Solomon, the descendants of Sotai, Sohireth, Pedara, Jeliah, Darkon, Gidel, Shephatiah, Hatil, Pokereth, Hazibayam, and Ammon. The temple servants and the descendants of the servants of Solomon, 392. The following came up from the towns of Tel Mahal, Milha, Tel Hashar, Kirub, Adan, and Immer, but they could not show that their families were descendants from Israel. The descendants of Deliah, Tobiah, and Nekodah, 642, and from among the priests, the descendants of Habiah, Hakos, and Barzillai, a man who married a daughter of Barzillai the Gideonite, and was called by that name. They searched for their family records, but they could not find them, and were so excluded from the priesthood as unclean. The governor therefore ordered them not to eat any of the most sacred food until there should be a priest ministering with the Urim and Thummim. The whole company numbered 42,360, besides the 7,337 male and female slaves, and they also had 245 males and female singers. There were 736 horses, 245 mules, 435 camels, and 6,720 donkeys. Some of the heads of the families contributed to the work. The governor gave to the treasury 1,000 dacrics of gold, 50 bowls, and 530 garments for priests. Some of the heads of the family gave to the treasury for the work 20,000 darics of gold and 2,200 minas of silver. The total given by the rest of the people was 20,000 darics of gold, 2,000 minas of silver, and 67 garments for the priests. The priests, the Levites, the gatekeepers, the musicians, and the temple servants, along with certain of the people and the rest of Israel and the rest of the Israelites, settled in their own town. That's the end. Well, that's the end of chapter 7. So yes, I'll be back tomorrow to read the next I'll be back tomorrow to read the next chapters. Well, the last chapters of Nehemiah, right? Thank you for those who came out. Honestly, reading, going over some of these books that I'm not really too familiar with, but I'm reading over again, like Ezra and Nehemiah, like they give you so much hope. They give you so much reassurance to keep going on, right? And even when you feel like, oh, you shouldn't, and even when you feel like you're not worthy, or even when you feel like people are mocking you and, willing you not to go on, they still give you hope that, they themselves went through it. They themselves were persecuted and mocked, right? And they still got up there and they still built that wall. They still built that temple, right? With all these things, enemies and bad things coming their way, they still got up there and they finished that temple. They finished the wall for Jerusalem, right? So there's really no excuse, right? There's just no excuse to be standing up for the Lord, right? So yes, thank you. God is good towards us, right? He is so good to us. So I'll be back tomorrow if you can make it. I'll be absolutely happy. If not, I'll do a devotional on Sunday where it's just the Psalms devotional and I just read through Psalms, right? Right. Again, thank you for the likes and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.